Welcome to the Dogtor Bros, where we have an honest discussion around vet life in and out of the clinic. My name is Brandon, and I'm your doc of the day and your guide through this episode. I'm here with my closest friends from vet school.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Jeff.
Hey, I'm Adam.
All right, well, we'll just get right into things. Before getting on here, I don't know about you guys, but I had some really delicious dinner. We like to cook at my house, and with it being warm for Iowa, I guess it's like 40 degrees.
Stop.
We grilled a little bit right before coming on to the show, and we had some steak, some asparagus, and some sweet potatoes. It was like the best food I've had all week. So I don't know about you guys, but when you think of your favorite food, what comes to mind?
Pizza. Yeah.
There we go.
Classic answer.
No, pizza is definitely my favorite food. And I haven't had any in like 3 weeks, so I'm really craving some pizza.
Man. All right, what about you, Adam?
Let's see. I guess it kind of depends on what I'm craving at the time. You saying you were grilling's got me thinking about the grill, so I like to grill some pork chops. I love to do some pork chops. When I'm out getting a nice steak, me and my wife have been a little bougie, and we've hit up a couple bougie restaurants, and so we've gotten those filet mignons, and man, you can't beat a good filet. And so that definitely comes to mind. I don't think I'm brave enough to try and tackle one of those on the grill, but I'm definitely a carnivore, so definitely in the meat genre when I'm thinking of favorite foods.
This is Jeff. Yes, for me, I would say I love trying different food from different places, and I literally just came back from vacation this week from Puerto Rico, and the food was amazing. So all the good seafoods and plantains and things were amazing. And Chris, we all laughed because Chris is notorious for his love of pizza at all times. And unfortunately for you, Chris, I had pizza for dinner like literally less than an hour ago. So I literally was thinking about you.
Man. Thank you.
Oh man, yeah, I'm jealous about that Puerto Rican cuisine. I hope you had some tostones for everyone.
I did have all the tostones, all the mofongo, all the things. It was really good.
That's so good.
In our last episode, Jeff and I reviewed our paths that we took to ultimately become veterinarians. Today, we'll be focusing on our two GPs in the room, or general practitioners for anyone outside of the veterinary community here, Adam and Chris, and their individual journeys to earning their DVM and beyond. So, starting with Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about life before becoming a veterinarian and any key moments that shaped your career path?
I guess before being a vet, I mean, I kind of always wanted to be a vet. It's kind of been something I wanted to do since I want to say like 5 or 6. I was either that or be a baseball player, and that obviously didn't work out. So, so definitely wanted to do that throughout everything. Started working in a vet hospital in high school, on and off in the summer. And then eventually just did that. Went to my undergrad at Berry College for the animal science program, and that's where went there with the intention of going to vet school, since they had a good track record of getting people into vet school. So I decided to go there, which was great. Got a lot of large animal experience there. From there, went to I got an externship at a zoo, so I got some zoo experience and everything. So kind of was able to do all my kind of different fields before going to vet school. And I remember going to applying and doing all that. I got into Ross. I think you did too, Brandon, right?
Yeah.
Ross. And then I also got into St. George's, which was an interesting interview because I met up with a veterinarian in Atlanta, and like I walk in the door and he is taking care of a constipated cat, and he was just in there, and then he started like the interview process as he's taking feces out of this cat. It's pretty wild. But anyways, I got in there, and then let's see where else. I got waitlisted for Oregon State, and then when I found out I got into Tuskegee, decided to go there. I think my interview was with Dr. Perry, and I forget who else was the other interviewee.
So yeah, that's interesting about the interview process. I guess that's an easy way to like weed out people that just aren't meant for the field for that St. George's interview.
Yeah, it was. I don't think that was part of it. I think that was just he was just taking care of his cat, and he was affiliated with the school. But yeah, it was definitely just interesting. Just walking into the clinic, and then he just starts the interview process while he's deconstipating a cat.
No, that's nuts. Just out of curiosity, did you have to travel for your Ross interview? Like far from where you were?
Honestly, I don't remember about that. I want to say I might have just went home to Florida and interviewed there when I was down there.
Oh, I see. Because yeah, like
actually, it might have been. I think the interview was down in Florida, and I just said, "Oh yeah, it's fine." I just went to visit my family while I was down when I like scheduled to do the interview or something.
Yeah, that was the weird thing for me with Ross. I had to travel to North Carolina. There were only specific areas you could interview. That I guess they had to like find locations because they weren't expecting you to fly down to the Caribbean and interview there. Yeah, I forget about traveling for interviews nowadays. Everyone just Zooms if they can, or if you can go somewhere in person, it's great. You get a little bit of better feel for the place you're going. But I kind of take that for granted now. We've Zoomed for all kinds of stuff with what I'm doing now. So,
no, for sure.
And then post graduation life, what has that been like?
Post graduating from Tuskegee, I went straight to North Carolina, where I'm at now. I started working in GP. I worked at another practice for about a year and a half. No, about a year and 2 or 3 months, which was great. I got a lot of mentorship there. One of the doctors there, he was kind of on his way out retiring. Dr. B, he was great. The guy, he was just one of those guys. He was just super knowledgeable and super patient. So he taught me a lot from the get-go. And then I was there, and then eventually now I got convinced to go where I'm at now. In November, it'll be 6 years there. So, or start of 6 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it'd be the start of 5 years this year. Yeah, it's been a while.
That's nuts. Yes.
It's weird. I'm like the most senior vet there now, which is crazy.
Oh, wow. So, as far as choosing that first job, what was like a big factor for you, in kind of accepting that job?
The big thing was just knowing that I was going to get that mentorship for surgery. I've always had an interest in surgery. I didn't want to go the residency route.
Boo.
Yeah, it wasn't my
boo, lame, boo.
Yeah, was never my intention. If I had to do a residency, it would have been in surgery. That would have been
yay.
Yeah, that would have been my chosen
residency.
Field. Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it.
I'll be honest, seeing the surgery residence where I'm at, I can't imagine being a surgery resident because it's a brutal life.
It is, and that's kind of why I didn't want to do that. I didn't have the life balance that I wanted to do with the family. So, and having a kid at that time already, so I was just like, yes, it wasn't for me. But yeah, chose that practice. I interviewed at 2 other practices, and then just decided to go there. It kind of worked out. There was I made the 5th doctor there. We had another doctor there who's great. I work with her now, and she's awesome. Was able to. Her husband ended up moving towards our area of town, so for work, so it kind of worked out. So I've known her for a while, but yeah, that's kind of why I just chose that practice. Was just more the mentorship off the bat, and kind of liked where I was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, great mentorship goes a really long way. I've had really great mentors myself, and I've had some not so great mentors, and it can like make or break just the way you do things, like how you feel on the job. At least that's my personal experience. I don't know. But no, that's great. Like, what kind of surgeries are you typically doing during the week?
Now, I mean, we'll not anything, because I know surgeons will do a lot more than I will ever touch. But we'll do some fracture repairs. My favorite thing is cruciates, and we do lateral sutures. It works well. Do that. We do foreign bodies, cystotomies. Did a cystotomy last week. Let's see, C-sections. I don't know, anything in the abdomen we'll pretty much touch for the most part, besides like some type of kidney or liver type surgery. I haven't done one of that. I probably wouldn't touch it.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, not a whole lot. If I know I can't do it, I just refer it out. But
for sure. Well, if you had to say, like, besides a spay and a neuter, like, what's the most common surgery you do?
Mass removals, dental extractions, and then probably knee surgeries. We do 1 or 2 knees on average a week.
Cool.
Ish. Yeah. Very
cool. Well, that's a nice little glimpse into your path and kind of what you're doing now and how you got to where you are in a private practice. So what about you, Adam? Why don't we dive into kind of where you started and got interested in veterinary medicine and how you got to where you are now?
Sure. So it's kind of always been one of those things where just always kind of knew I was going to be a vet, always wanted to be a vet. I don't really remember back to a defining moment of, that's the moment where I wanted to pursue being a vet. It's just something that was always there and always something that I had been prepared to work towards. I did my undergraduate at Western Kentucky University. Go Hilltoppers. Tops on top.
I'm sorry.
And listen, just because he looks like Grimace from McDonald's, there's no need to hate, okay?
This is Jeff. I'm just going to say, yay, Hilltoppers, but also it does look like a big red Grimace.
He does kind of look like a big red Grimace. But anyway.
Could be worse. Could be Bulldogs.
That's true.
Hey now. Go Dwags. All day long.
So, yeah, went to Western Kentucky University, loved it there. Great university, had a great experience there. In terms of experience, I worked at a few different clinics, got actually experience with several different clinics, mostly small animal. I was with a practice for a while where they actually had a full barn back behind the practice and like tons of land with horses and cattle. And we would basically, I was hired basically as barn help. So I would scoop stalls and feed the horses and run the cattle. And honestly, at the time, I loved that. Really, really enjoyed working with the large animal, especially the cattle. I don't know why, but because that was something I had never really done before. But at the time, I found that really interesting. Left that practice. This was all still in undergrad, and went to a small animal practice, and that was my first time being an actual tech. Previously, I'd actually just volunteered at clinics, And so that was my first experience as being a tech. So got a lot of experience there as well, and worked there senior year of undergrad. I applied to Auburn and Tuskegee. Didn't get in at Auburn, did get in at Tuskegee. So only place that I really got in. I mean, those were the only two places that I applied. So went to Tuskegee, met you guys, met my wife Allison, and then in terms who I'm sure we'll have on at some point to chat with us.
No.
And or not. You know she's going to listen to this.
Oh my God, Allison! Allison, you know how much I love you.
You are now on her shit list for sure.
No, my vet wife.
So going forward from there, I've kind of had an interesting run. So I started at Banfield. You hear a lot about Banfield, both sides of the spectrum. Honestly, right out of vet school, I personally thought it was a really good experience. They have a really good onboarding for new vets. Really good at kind of easing you into, what you're doing, what you're seeing. I had a great mentor there. Dr. Mills was my mentor. Shout out to Dr. Mills. He was fantastic. I was actually just messaging and chatting with him just the other day. But because he's going to be opening up some clinics here pretty soon, and was talking with him about possibly doing some relief work with him at those clinics. But was at Banfield for about 2 years. Then I made the switch over to a separate private practice. They were still corporate owned, but just had much more of a private practice feel to it. Didn't have, the big corporate overhead that you feel with Banfield. That was also where my wife worked at the time. So we worked together a little bit, but they did own 3 separate practices. So we ended up being at separate practices, and was there for about, again, 2.5 years. Again, that was kind of through the pandemic. So that was kind of a interesting time for the vet world in general. And then at that time, I kind of honestly got to a point where I was honestly already starting to get a little burnout in the field, which is kind of warning signs, getting burnout 4 years into practice. I'm really in my late 20s at that time. I have several years to go. So if I'm already seeing some red flags there, I felt like it was time to maybe look for a switch. So I found a job with the USDA as a public health veterinarian. So I took that on. Completely different world with the USDA. Not seeing patients, not treating small animals especially. I was stationed at a high volume hog slaughter plant where I was the inspector in charge and a supervisory public health veterinarian. Essentially oversaw all of the food inspectors there. So basically the people who look through all the meat that goes through the plant to make sure that there's no pathology, make sure there's nothing that's going to be considered contamination for the food supply that goes out into our supermarkets. And that was a very interesting experience. A lot of pros, a lot of cons to that. But eventually, after about a year, decided to get out of that, and now I am back as a general practitioner, but I am in a relief capacity. So I have a couple of different clinics that I'm working with, both of the clinics that I previously worked with. And then on top of that, just kind of finding other clinics here and there that just need some relief. I actually started a new practice this past week, and they are great as well. And so far, things are going really well with the relief side of things.
No, that's quite the road of twists and turns with your path, post veterinary school. I think a lot of people don't realize outside of the veterinary community how many different ways you can go with a DVM degree, and you're just a great example of that. With the USDA side of things, was there anything in particular that kind of pushed you away from that career in general?
From the USDA side, what shifted me back into general practice?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly.
So with the USDA, again, a lot of pros and cons to that. You see a lot of kind of retiree type vets in that capacity, in that role, and I think that's a fantastic job opportunity for a vet who's looking to kind of phase into retirement. Like they're not quite ready to full on just be sitting on the couch watching TV every day, but at the same time, they can't keep up with the hustle and bustle of a busy clinic.
Sure.
And I think that's a great kind of in between there with the USDA. There was a lot of pathology in that, which was kind of cool. I did kind of like that when I signed on for that. So basically, anything that looked like it had disease, they would rail it out, let me take a look at it. And then at that point, I would determine what was going on. I'd look through the carcass, look through the viscera, look through the head. And if based on what's going on with that, say, okay, you need to trim this off and pass the rest, or you just need to condemn this whole carcass. So that side of it was pretty interesting. We also did a lot with humane handling. So making sure that the facility is humanely handling the animals. The biggest drawback from where I was personally was that it was a rather large facility. So in a typical day, they would slaughter 10,000 head of swine,
Wow.
of pigs. So yeah. So
Okay.
10,000 a day. I mean that's moving pretty good there. And so there was a lot of, I'll just say, a lot of politics in shocker in the government world. Yeah. So I feel like that was the biggest drawback, was that they would, not to get too much into it, but they would kind of preach we're on the same team, but there was very much a me first mentality with a lot of people.
Sure.
And so that kind of, in a sense, kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I think the biggest drawback of that was being at that large plant, was that we were kind of the center of attention in this particular area. And so we got a lot more of that than some other people in the area. So would I have had that somewhere else? Maybe not. But that was one of the biggest drawbacks. That, and the fact that I was working 55 plus hours a week, which, I know to you probably sounds like nothing being in internal med, but when you got, 2 kids and a wife at home that wants you to help with those 2 kids, she was hoping I'd be home a little more too. So, and that's when they weren't working Saturdays. A lot of times they'd work Saturdays too. So, the politics of it, along with the long hours, is what kind of drove me back. That paired with the fact that, I kind of saw with the relief capacity, the benefits of that. And so that kind of drew me back to the general practice side of things.
Gotcha. No, 55 hours is still long. I mean, even though I'm working really long hours right now, it's a temporary thing. And the goal is to be working, that 40-ish hour work week, and being comfortable. But, that's tough when you're in a job where you're probably going to be at that capacity long term. As far as, like the politics side of things, I definitely get that as well, being at technically a state job. Like my academia job is a state job, and there's definitely politics where I'm at. People that have been there for anywhere from 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And as far as, you mentioned Banfield, maybe a little bit of a stigma. I think VCA gets the same thing, both corporate clinics. I think, though, the thing that I try and remind people that maybe come off with that stigma, and I don't know if you've had to have these conversations with people that ask you about your job, but every clinic is their own, even though Banfields are very similar, and, VCAs, they all vary, and it's all about who you're working with, who your mentors are, who's your leader. And, you could be at a Banfield and have the best team, and you could be at, maybe some private practice that's well known and just be part of a terrible team. But, don't judge a book by its cover, for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
And real quick, just because if people don't know outside of the vet world, like what is relief veterinary medicine? Like, how would you define that?
Sure. So basically, what I do now with Banfield, it's kind of different. So I am technically part-time at Banfield. So with Banfield, I am technically part-time. I am part-time 1 day per week. So I work 1 day per week consistently with Banfield. Now with these other clinics, what I am doing is essentially marketing myself as kind of my own little business entity. I haven't formed an LLC or anything like that. I'm working as a sole proprietor, which is basically just me as an individual doing business for myself. And what I'll do is I'll go around to different clinics, and I'll go in there and I'll talk to them and ask to speak with a chief of staff or a manager and just kind of let them know, hey, I'm in the area. I am, here in case your vet gets sick, in case your vet up and quits on you, in case your vet wants to go on vacation, whatever it may be. If you have a vacancy where you need help that day, I'm here for you. And then they contact me and say, yeah, hey, we need you for these days. I'll let them know, okay, well, I will charge you X amount for the day or X amount for an hourly rate. Sometimes if it's a little bit far to travel, I'll throw a little travel expense in there as well, depending on how far. And then they say, okay. And then, for those, I send them I type up a contract with the amounts, with the days that we're gonna work for them. Send that to them. They sign that. They get that back to me. And then at that point, I'm essentially an independent contractor, just kind of going in there, working for, the day, and then either being done with it or continuing that. Some clinics will actually do long-term relief as well. So the clinic that I'm working with now, they've expressed, the one that I just started working with last week, they've expressed some interest in that too. Possibly doing some long-term relief. So almost doing it as an alternative to being an associate, to where I pretty much work there on a regular schedule, but in a relief capacity. And there's pros and cons to that. Obviously I miss out on a lot of the benefits with that. Because of that, the pay is a little bit better than if I'm a full-time associate. And the thing I really like is the flexibility in the schedule with that. There's no you have to work every Saturday or every other Saturday. It's like, hey, can you work this Saturday? And I can say no, and they're like, well, okay. Or they can say, can you work this Saturday? And I can say, well, I can work half of it, take it or leave it. And they can say, okay, or never mind, we'll find somebody else. So I can kind of pick and choose my own schedule, which is the biggest benefit for me in that. But yeah, so far I've been doing that since maybe September or so. And so far it's going really well. I really enjoy working with different clinics, because you get to see how different clinics work. And you can really get some good ideas, from different clinics, because one thing I found working with a lot of different clinics is that clinics will get kind of stuck in their ways on certain things. And I don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to go into a clinic and being like, you're doing this all wrong. You need to do it this way. But just for my own personal benefit, I can pick stuff up from different clinics here and there and be like, oh, okay, well, I've always done that this way, but your way looks a lot better. So let me try to do it that way. Or I might go into a clinic and be like, wow, I definitely don't want to do it that way. And I know, the way I was doing it is maybe better. So getting to see different ideas and different ways that people are doing things is a really big benefit, and just getting to network. I'm meeting people in the field that, I've never met before at a pretty rapid pace. And that not only is kind of cool to just kind of meet new people, but also opens the door to potential future opportunities as well. So far it's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. Talking to Allison about maybe trying to do some relief work in the future too. She's kind of open to that too. That's all down the road, but yeah, so far going pretty good.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I there's a lot of value in being in different clinics and getting different perspectives. And, it's just the relief life is interesting. Just the value of making your own schedule whenever you want to make it. It's just so freeing, in a way. Like when I was GP, I know that we had like an internal relief system with VCA clinics. So you could go do relief at a VCA clinic if you're a VCA doctor. And, there's a little bit of flexibility in that. You can make some extra cash or whatever, but doing it full time, so it's a little bit of a dream.
And this is Jeff. One thing I wanted to point out that I think is cool about both of your stories, Adam and Chris, is that like I've kind of gotten to watch, well, all three of you honestly grow and changing your careers over the past, we are now pushing 6 years in the vet med, which is as graduates, which is crazy. And what, 2 months will be 6 years? I'm gonna throw up. But I've gotten to see you, Adam, kind of like switch gears several times, going from like classic GP to like you said, you were kind of burnt out, switch over to the USDA job to see how that was, and now switching over into relief, which is still similar but different than everyday GP now that you are your own business essentially, which I admire you switching to fit like what your needs are at the time and seeing what fits, because like Brandon said, there's so many different ways we can do vet med and make it work for you. And we kind of took very different ways to get to our residencies, but we're still in like specialty world, and he's an academic and I'm in private practice, and we're all doing different things. And then Chris, what's amazing about your story is your focus into surgery. I feel like there's a increase in graduates that are leaning away from surgery and that aren't touching things that you will do. I don't think I know a single GP in the area around our age that will do knees and things. And a lot of our surgeons, I think, are overwhelmed and super busy. And so it's nice to have somebody that will dive into cutting more. And as has been mentioned in other episodes, I was into surgery and then quickly got away from it outside of vet school. So testament, me switching over to derm world. So I admire all of y'all. And of course, Brand going into internal medicine, very valiant and amazing. But I think you're all cool. I think you're all great. And Chris, if you ever need a surgery partner, I'll still scrub in with you.
Perfect.
I will not run the surgery, but I'll always be your wingman assistant surgeon if you need me.
You can take over a few times. It'll be fine.
I don't know if you want me to.
Yeah, I'll just continue to stay out of the
That's the
OR.
biggest surgery. Right.
You both are missing out.
I love a punch biopsy.
I'm not going to lie, that's probably one of the more boring things I do.
Oh, it's so easy. And it's something about maybe I just have a lot of patience, but I'm just like, ooh, what's it going to be in 2 weeks?
See, that's where Brandon said on the last episode, he's like, it's like figuring out a puzzle. I'm like, I can't see the puzzle. So I want to, I can actually touch it with my hands and fix it.
Yeah, no, I get that.
To cut is to cure.
All right. Well, I guess before we go, just one last little glimpse into our, brains here. As far as, doing things after a long day of work, after, doing that 55-hour work week when you were a USDA vet or being in the middle of residency, is there anything that you guys will just classically go to cheer you up?
This is Chris. Yeah, I like comedy, so I'll just listen to either a comedy stand-up special or a comedy podcast and just listen to that. And that usually kind of that's something I can do easily, like in my headphones while still doing other stuff at home, just with the kids and everything, or on the drive home.
This is Jeff. I would say my favorite way to unwind after a hard week is probably going to a new brewery in town and just getting a flight of some beers I've never had with a friend or my boyfriend, and just zoning out from the week, and then being in bed by midnight.
By
Gosh,
that's still late.
It's that derm curfew.
I'm not a dad. I don't know what you want from me. I could be a daddy.
Oh God. So for me, moving on. For me, usually when I get home, it's wrestling 2 kids, which is great. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Wrestling 2 kids, finally getting them to bed, and then you guys are gonna judge me, but getting my ginger bourbon and sitting down with my wife and watching The Bachelor, either The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, or Bachelor in Paradise. I don't.
Not the whole series.
It's just what we do.
You know, you say that, and the thing that is just like the easiest, like relax and thing to just get away from work is to get home, sit down, and watch The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, and Bachelor in Paradise, because it's just so so easy. I don't need to think. I just watch stupidity happen in front of me. And I'm like, my life is...
You just sit there and judge people's lives. And
right now, compared to this nonsense.
Exactly.
It's really funny that you said that.
You know how good you have it. And then we are in bed by 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
Same, for the most part.
Well, now hold on. The Bachelor runs a little late, so usually we record it so we can fast forward through the commercials. Because otherwise it'd be 10. So you take those commercials into account. Maybe we can get 9:30 if we're lucky. It's pushing it.
Yeah, Adam and I are kindred spirits there for sure. Thank you so much for listening to the Dogtor Bros. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts. It would also help us out if you could share this episode with others who may be interested in today's topic. You can also tell us what you want to hear and drop suggestions in the comments or shoot us an email at thedoctorbros@gmail.com or DM us at the Dogtor Bros on Instagram. You can reach me on Instagram at DogtorMasonIM.
This is Chris, and you can find me at Dr. Chris Hernandez on Instagram.
And this is Jeff. If you want to find me, it's Derm Dr. Jeff, DermDogtorJeff on Instagram and TikTok.
And this is Adam. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Adam DVM. That's DRADAM DVM.